Wars don't just happen, they are ignited. Sometimes by greed, sometimes by power, sometimes by hate, and sometimes by accident. World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars, its roots have been debated for over a century. Historians point to alliances, military build-ups, imperial ambitions. But what if I told you that this catastrophic conflict, which claimed more than 20 million lives, might never have started if not for one man? A man who didn't intend to spark a global inferno, but who became the unwitting match to a powder keg that engulfed the world. This is the story of the spy who started World War I by accident. Our tale begins in the early 20th century, a time of empires and espionage. Europe was a chessboard, and every move was watched, calculated, and countered. The great powers, Britain, France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Russia, were locked in a tense dance, their alliances teetering on the edge of war. Behind the scenes, a shadowy world of spies and secret agents worked tirelessly to gather intelligence, sabotage rivals, and safeguard their nations. In this world of shadows, one name stands out: Dragutin Dmitrievich, better known by his chilling codename Apis. Apis was no ordinary spy. Born in Serbia in 1876, he grew up in a nation that had only recently won its independence from the Ottoman Empire. Serbia was small, but its people were fiercely proud and deeply nationalistic. For Apis, loyalty to his homeland was more than a virtue, it was an obsession. By his early 20s, Apis had joined the Serbian military and quickly rose through the ranks. But it wasn't enough. He saw Serbia not as it was, but as it could be, a powerful, unified state that would lead the Slavic peoples of the Balkans. To achieve this dream, Apis believed, the enemies of Serbia, Austria-Hungary, chief among them, had to be destroyed. And so, in the shadows of Serbia's military elite, he founded a secret organization, the Black Hand. The Black Hand was more than a group of conspirators. It was a cult of nationalism, a network of soldiers, politicians, and spies dedicated to the idea of a greater Serbia. Their motto was chilling: union or death. To Apis and his followers, the ends always justified the means. By 1914, tensions in the Balkans were at a breaking point. Austria-Hungary, a crumbling empire desperate to maintain control, had annexed Bosnia and Herzegovina, angering Serbia and its allies. For Apis, this was an unforgivable insult. Bosnia, with its large Serbian population, was supposed to be part of his dream. Austria-Hungary wasn't just an enemy, it was an occupier. And then came the moment that would change everything. Word reached Apis of a visit, an official state visit by Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, to Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. It was to take place on June 28, 1914, a date that was no accident. For Serbs, June 28th was Vidovdan, a sacred day marking the anniversary of the Battle of Kosovo, a defining moment in Serbian history. To Apis, the timing of Franz Ferdinand's visit was an insult, a provocation. It was as if Austria was mocking Serbia's pain. Apis saw an opportunity. If Franz Ferdinand could be assassinated, it would send a message that Serbia would not be subjugated. It might even spark a rebellion in Bosnia, further undermining Austria-Hungary's control. And so he began to plot. But Apis was no fool. He knew the risks. Killing an heir to the throne could provoke war. It could drag Serbia into a conflict it wasn't prepared for. Yet in his mind, the potential rewards outweighed the dangers. And so the Black Hand set its plan in motion. The plan was reckless, hastily conceived and riddled with flaws. Apis recruited a group of young Bosnian Serbs, idealistic, inexperienced, and naive. Chief among them was Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old student with tuberculosis and a burning hatred for Austria-Hungary. Princip and his co-conspirators were smuggled into Sarajevo, armed with pistols and bombs. Their orders were clear: kill Franz Ferdinand. As the day of the assassination approached, the conspirators realized just how daunting their task was. Franz Ferdinand traveled with heavy security. The streets of Sarajevo would be packed with spectators. The chances of success seemed slim, but Apis had chosen his pawns carefully. They were young, desperate, and willing to die for the cause. June 28, 1914. The morning was warm, the streets of Sarajevo alive with excitement. Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie arrived in the city to a mix of cheers and silent resentment. Their motorcade, a procession of open-top cars, meandered through the streets, a tempting target. The first attempt came early. As the motorcade passed the Kabrinovic Bridge, one of the conspirators threw a bomb, but the bomb missed, bouncing off the Archduke's car and exploding beneath the one behind it. Chaos erupted. Franz Ferdinand's driver sped away, leaving the bewildered conspirators scrambling to escape. For most, this would have been the end of the plan, but fate had other ideas. After the failed bombing, the Archduke insisted on continuing with his visit. Against the advice of his advisors, he decided to visit the hospital to see the victims of the explosion. It was a decision born of compassion, but it would seal his fate. Meanwhile, Gavrilo Princip, despondent over the failure of the plan, wandered the streets of Sarajevo. He stopped at a cafe, contemplating what to do next. And then, in a moment, so improbable it feels like fiction, the Archduke's car appeared. The driver, unfamiliar with the streets, had taken a wrong turn. As he tried to reverse, the car stalled, right in front of Princip. Seizing his chance, Princip drew his pistol, stepped forward, and fired 2 shots. The first hit Sophie, killing her instantly. The second struck Franz Ferdinand in the neck. Within minutes, both were dead. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand sent shockwaves through Europe. Austria-Hungary, outraged, blamed Serbia for the attack. Diplomatic tensions escalated, alliances were invoked, and within weeks, the world was at war for Apis. The assassination was a victory, but one that quickly turned to ashes. The war he had hoped to ignite would not be confined to the Balkans. It would engulf Europe, dragging in nations from across the globe, and Serbia would pay a heavy price. By the end of the war, more than 1.2 million Serbs, over a quarter of V. The population would be dead. As for Apis, his role in the assassination would come back to haunt him. In 1917, amidst political intrigue and paranoia, he was arrested by the Serbian government, accused of plotting against the monarchy. He was tried in a sham trial, convicted, and executed by firing squad. The man who had dreamed of a greater Serbia died a traitor in the eyes of his own country. The story of Apis and the assassination of Franz Ferdinand is a tale of unintended consequences. What began as a plot to liberate the Balkans ended in a war that reshaped the world. It is a reminder of the fragility of peace, the dangers of nationalism, and the unpredictable chain of events that can lead to catastrophe. But it is also a story of humanity, of flawed individuals driven by ambition, fear, and the desire to shape their destiny. Apis didn't intend to start World War I. He didn't foresee the millions of lives that would be lost, the empires that would crumble, or the scars that would linger for generations. He was a man blinded by his own dreams, unable to see the storm he was unleashing, and in the end, isn't that the tragedy of war? It is never truly planned, never truly controlled. It is a collision of decisions, accidents, and ambitions, a chaos that consumes everything in its path. So as we reflect on the events of 1914, let us remember the lessons they teach us. Let us remember how close the world is to the brink, how easily the spark of one man's actions can ignite a fire that engulfs us all, because while wars may not just happen, they are always waiting to. If you found this exploration into ancient texts intriguing, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten histories and spiritual mysteries.